Stand tall, be proud, know who you are and what you'll be.
But my mother told me, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, and keep an open mind.
Have no regrets for what happened in your past because it made you who you are today.
Wow.
Which I thought was very profound. And that's what I have to remember because, none of us, we've all had issues in our past, especially me, college, getting out of college, and we were all the people that we thought we knew everything, that kind of thing. But, yeah, there are several things I regretted, and they're like, no regrets. Because if this hadn't happened, then this wouldn't have happened, and you wouldn't be where you are today. And it's like, well, that's true.
Stay in the day and get out of the way.
There you go.
I'm living it.
That's fantastic. Hey everybody, this is Tim. Welcome to Call Me Beast, and we are going to be talking about the best advice we ever got. And tonight it's all about the women weighing in on this. Dr. Mary White, how are you?
Doing so good, Tim. And I struggled a little bit with this because I feel like a lot of people give me advice because I need a lot of advice. So I really struggle, but an epiphany came to me, and I'll share it later.
Oh gosh, we're all on pins and needles. I love it. Dr. Ginger Featherstone, how are you?
I'm fabulous. I'm really excited because I'm getting ready to go on a family cruise on Saturday, celebrating my twins and my husband's big birthdays. And so it's going to be really fun. We've got all 6 of us going, and I'm really excited.
So it's like a Thanksgiving cruise kind of thing?
Yeah, we're gone from Saturday to the following Sunday.
Oh, wow. How wonderful. Everybody, we're recording this right before Thanksgiving. And
Yes.
Ginger, that sounds great. I love that. How old are your twins, may I ask?
30.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Very cool. I love it.
Ginger looks 30 herself.
Too good.
I know.
Right. Thank you.
I never know the appropriate way to say that.
I can't wait to hear Mary's epiphany, though.
Okay,
Oh, it's not that big of a deal, please.
No, you've set it up now. By the
That's
way,
right.
everybody, Ginger has to leave early tonight. So if she disappears from this conversation, nobody worry about her. She's not heading off on the cruise quite that early, but she does have somewhere she has to go. Kristen Giesland, the Mindful Seers, with us. Kristen, how are you?
I'm good. I had some of those things that actually inform me that, yes, I am a psychic today.
Oh,
where I was reaching out to people at the same time they were reaching to me, like as if I could hear them. I know that happens with everybody, but sometimes I forget that I have gifts. So it was nice to be reminded of that today.
All right. I love it. And a new haircut, which I like.
Thank you.
Nice. I was going to say that, Tim.
Thank you so much.
I know. It looks like the kind of thing that you would slave over for hours and hours, but you told me it was really easy, right?
This is my natural hair. Yeah, it was just cut the way it needed to be. So I don't have to do hardly anything. I just put some product in there. That's it. And scrunched it.
Isn't that the definition of a really great haircut?
Yes, it is. Exactly. I
love it. And somebody else with a wonderful haircut, Jackie Gillies, with us tonight. Jackie, how are you?
I am blessed. It was a gorgeous day. I got to be outside, see a few flowers still blooming. So it was an awesome day. So thanks.
I love it. And Jackie, I've been thinking so much about you because we're at the very end of marching band season. I know you spent so much time helping by adjudicating and helping young people get better. How was your season with all that?
I still have one more weekend.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Love it.
Yeah. The Southern California Championships. I was supposed to go out this last weekend and do prelims for 2A, but because of the rain and the mudslides, they had to cancel.
Oh my.
So I got a free weekend. I didn't get paid, but it's okay. I had a free weekend. It was like, oh, whoa, this is what it feels like to have a Saturday off.
You didn't know what to do with yourself.
Oh no, I knew what to do.
She's got it.
Yeah.
Well, I knew better when I said it, but Well, Jackie, I want to say thank you for all the wonderful work you do for all those young musicians and performers. And it just always makes me happy to know you're out there doing that great work.
Thank you. Because I got to judge a couple of Tim Hinton products this season.
Fun.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. One this last week at UIL.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I did the 1A, 3A championships.
Oh, well, I hope you enjoyed the show. If I had anything to do with it and you liked it, then all the better. That's awesome.
And then if you didn't like it, he really didn't do it.
They
No, it
called
was
my name
great
by
because your
accident.
color guard didn't run. You can tell who a great designer is because there were a couple of groups where the color guard ran all the time. And it's like, no, you can't do that to these children.
Let's have a clinic. Okay, if that was you and you happen to be watching this, call me. I'll fill you in on how you can fix that. Or actually, I'll put you in touch with Jackie. All right, so everybody, best advice I ever got. Ginger, I'm going to start with you because I know you have to leave early. I'm just going to let you. We hopefully have at least a couple. But what's the first thing that came to mind for you that you'd like to share?
So I have to agree with Mary a little bit. Like this was kind of tough.
Tough.
But in my world of education, I kind of looked at this in two avenues. My mom's advice to me, and then my advice as an educator. And it was when I was starting to look into the opportunity of being an administrator. So I was applying for AP jobs, and there was a job that was open, and it was kind of like people were telling me to apply for it, and I wasn't sure that was the job that I wanted. And one of the district administrators said to me, is it a job you want? Is that a place you want to be? And I went, I don't think so. I don't think that's where I see my path going. And she said, then don't apply. And I didn't. And, I think that what was really fabulous about that is my path went in different directions, but it still took me where I ended up, which was a really wonderful, fabulous career. And then my mom always taught me without it being advice, if that makes sense. And it was a lot about integrity, your work ethic, and how you portray yourself. And probably one of my favorites was to stand tall and be proud. You are the person who has to know who you are and what you will be.
Wow. That's 2 pieces of big, great, awesome advice, Ginger.
Yeah. I was pretty lucky. I had some really great people in my life.
That's why it was so difficult for me.
Yeah.
Wait, so say that again. Stand tall and what? I loved it. What did you say your mother said?
Stand tall, be proud, know who you are and what you'll be. I think that even today in the world where things are changing, right? In my era when I was growing up, my mother, I read the book Lessons in Chemistry. And so that book so much made me think about my mother and the era that my mother grew up, where you're to be the housewife, you're to be this is who you are, not who you really are or who you really can be. And so I think with my mom, her vision for me was to never be somebody that was held back. I was never to be somebody that was told I couldn't do something. I could do whatever it was that I put forth, the effort and the mindset to make sure I accomplished it. So I think that was that, I'm a military brat. So you grow up in an environment that's different than not everybody has that experience. So.
Kristen, you seem really affected by what
I
she's
am.
saying.
It's just so sweet. It's just so sweet that your mom would say those words to you. And like you're saying, also coming from a woman of her generation, that's so empowering and encompassing in so many ways. I am really affected by that because it just is really sweet. And what a great thing to connect you with your mom all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was blessed to have very strong women in my life. Very blessed.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Me too, Ginger. My mother had a college degree. She at times was a typical kind of housewife, but wasn't always all the time. She was a nurse. So, we had very strong role models, if you will.
Yes, very much so. So thank you for letting me share that.
Well, I love it. And I especially sort of love the fact about know who you will be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's not something that I think, I don't know, it just doesn't sound like typical parental advice, of think like sort of have this vision, I guess, of
Mm-hmm.
who you think you want to be and then go be that. Seems kind of bold.
And putting it out there, just if you can dream it, you can be it,
Yes. And I think that's what really kind of like, don't set barriers to what you're capable of and what you can and will be. And I think sometimes we put walls up when we really shouldn't, when we're very capable of accomplishing things that maybe we don't see, but our parents do.
Well,
Nice.
unfortunately, I think a lot of times parents end up putting up some of those walls around kids, too. So it's so lovely
Not
that
to
they
say
want.
she didn't do that, right?
Oh, okay. Remember, I said military.
Well, I didn't mean like I didn't mean like giving you rules and guidelines. But I think sometimes parents discourage or say the wrong thing to bring a kid's ambitions down. I don't know. I didn't mean to make this heavy, everybody, but like I just think it's really nice that you had this sort of encouragement all the time. It seems.
Yeah, it's interesting. So when I went off to college, I went to a big university and I was very young. And my mother said to me, I was like, when I go like, oh my gosh. And she said, I want you to have an education in life. You will succeed in university. You'll succeed beyond that. But this is your opportunity to experience life. And boy, I certainly did. But you know what? You learn from your mistakes as well, just as easily as that was. But I was very blessed.
Well,
And
Learn
you
from
were
my
young.
mistakes.
what was that?
I taught military kids for 30 years through Tinker Air Force Base. So it's like you either get people that adjust really well on the fly and they're very flexible, or you get the kids that just go into a shell and are afraid to come out. They don't know how to connect to other people. They're just overwhelmed with everything in life. So obviously your parents raised you right so that you were open to everything. And that was a real blessing for you.
Yeah, you have to learn to adapt when you are moving every 9 months to a year. That is hard on kids. It really is. But if you're going to survive, guess what? You better figure it out.
So, Jackie, what did you do to help those kids come out of their shells?
Well, band is different because band gives them a ready-made family. So that's the difference. So at least they could find, people to connect with in band. And usually because there were other military kids who'd been wherever they were, whether they're in Turkey or Germany or wherever, usually there was somebody who'd also been on that base, or they could relate to whatever had happened to them. Like when they built the first Aldi's close to us, all these kids had been in Ramstein in Germany, all went crazy because they all knew Aldi's. And I'm like, I don't even know, what is this store? Oh, it's great, And so they all bonded over that. And I didn't have a clue what they were talking about. So sometimes it's just a secret language. But band is a ready-made family. So that's what's so special about band, choir, orchestra.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
And
doubt.
you also have an instant performance outlet too. Like if you are not a big talker or don't want to talk to people, you're putting yourself out there with whatever instrument you're playing. It's in a different way. You're communicating in a different way, which is nice.
Good point.
I love that. Well, Jackie, I switched schools going into 10th grade, which was really, really hard for me.
Oh.
And the band family saved me, really. Like they became my place to fit in really fast. So I'm so thankful that I had that too. Okay, who would like to share one of theirs next?
Well, I'm just going to share my epiphany, Tim. It's not a big epiphany before Ginger has to leave because she said she wanted to hear my epiphany.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't an epiphany. Tim, I've been struggling with this for a month, really a month. And I shouldn't say epiphany, I should say aha. So I was like writing all these pieces of advice I had gotten in my life. And then it struck me that my mother gave me the most important piece of advice. I know I have said this to you before, Tim, but I was a sassy teenager.
No, I can't. Really? That's
Shocking.
You might say somewhat snippy and snotty at times too. And I was, tough. I was, in my world, I was the color guard captain, and I was hard on people. I think looking back, I was hard on people. And my mother said to me, Mary, you get more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. And it came to me this afternoon around 5:30. And so that was my epiphany, but really an aha that she said that to me. And I think that has served me well. And you don't always remember it as you're going through those teenage angsty type years, but then it all of a sudden it hits you like when you start your adult life or you're in post college. You go, oh my gosh, this piece of advice can carry me through everything. So that was the one I wanted to share. I have another one too, but I'll share later too.
Well, does anybody else want to weigh in on the honey and vinegar thing?
I love that. And I think that came from my grandmother.
Well, my mother was old.
I know, I'm just saying my grandmother would say the same thing too, especially if we were getting a little snotty.
Or a lot of it snotty.
I also heard that expression. And I think it was from my father's mother. So, I think that was like the thing to say to people when they were getting snotty, because I certainly was a snotty teenager too. And if I can dial it back, I'm thinking maybe 13 or something like that. Hearing those words.
Yes. I would like to dial some of that back, but unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So it's always about moving forward. So I always try to do honey.
Well, and it really does work because we all find ourselves in situations where things are difficult. And, like even at Disney here in Orlando, like they have like a kill 'em with kindness kind of attitude where you're so nice to them that they start to realize that they're being terrible. Now this is my own personal interpretation. I'm sure that's not what Disney would say, but, so the kill 'em with kindness is another version of that, I think. But I do think it's true. And those kind of things, we've all heard them because they ring true and they are true.
Yeah. So just for me to remember it today too was important because I was thinking I wrote down the word kind, and that is what made me think of that.
I love that. Okay, Jackie, what do you have? I'll let you go next.
My advice is something that was told to me several times by an older friend of mine who recently passed. And it was like, have no regrets for what happened in your past because it made you who you are today.
Wow.
Which I thought was very profound. And that's what I have to remember because, none of us, we've all had issues in our past, especially me, college, getting out of college, and we were all the people that we thought we knew everything, that kind of thing. But there are several things I regretted, and they're like, no regrets. Because if this hadn't happened, then this wouldn't have happened, and you wouldn't be where you are today. And it's like, well, that's true.
I think about that a lot, Jackie. I think about because a lot of people say, well, I regret this, I regret that. I don't believe in regrets necessarily because of that, because it's who I am.
True.
Wow. You're making me think about that, and I love it. I love it.
Well, thanks. But it's stood me well to make sure I keep everything in perspective.
Yeah, and sometimes really terrible things that happen to us really build some resilience or some qualities that we really need to be able to move forward in our lives.
Yes.
So I think all of it sort of, Jackie, I think, obviously the point is like all of it sort of works together to help us become something terrific. And we all have those, everybody, nobody knows more than when they first got out of college. Like I think like in the same exact thing, like I was so opinionated about what things needed to be and how things worked. And I think back on it now, but
Right.
it's where we all are. It's just part of it. Right.
And then when you mentor someone else, it's like, no, I've been there. I know exactly what they're going through. They're not going to listen to me. So I'll sit back and wait until they're ready to listen.
Yeah, but it gives you some patience with them, obviously, too.
True.
Yeah. Or like Ginger said, you learn from those mistakes, you learn it the hard way, the natural consequence way.
Very true.
All right, Kristen, what did you come in with?
Well, I have a couple things. I'll start with the big one first. So, somewhere, I think it was from a minister, sort of motivational speaker slash minister in the New Thought. And this was popular in business too, to have a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal, to have something so big that you just can't even imagine actually achieving it, but go for it anyway. And I really intertwined that with my spiritual practice, because allegedly the practice that I do can help you realize in one lifetime. So it's supposed to be like the quick path. And sometimes when I interact with my teachers and stuff, I'm just sort of like, how did I even get here? How is it even possible that I would know these human beings? Little Kristen from, Clearwater, Florida. How does she even, connect with these humans? But somehow it all fell into place like that. And it's sort of like a true north for me when things are too overwhelming or there's too many details. I remember what that goal is, what it means to me, why that is important to me. And I feel like even just thinking about it, even just thinking, okay, I'm going to put more focus on that, causes my reality to shift for the better. And it's just really wonderful to have something in your life that feels like true north. And it's always there, it's reliable. And I know that if things aren't really going the best, it's because I'm off the true north. It's not because the true north has moved. And that's just so reassuring in this crazy mixed up world. To have something like that and I honestly think about, and I've spoken to my teachers about this, I've said, how do people that have like no spiritual realm in their life, how do they even get up every day? How do they even do it over and over again every day, with any degree of, whatever willingness, I just don't know how they do it. So, so for me, having the big, hairy, audacious goal, and that translates into my regular life too. I've picked some things to do that are harder they're much harder and require more skill than I have. So that means I'm going to have to grow into those goals. And, so I like that. I like having that. And, somehow when I'm in the realm of imagining possibilities, even if I don't know how to get there, even if I'm feeling personally discouraged in this now moment, when I flip to imagining possibilities, I feel completely different. Like I can feel my whole biochemistry just settles right down. And it's like somehow we're wired for that. We're wired, and we're supposed to be imagining into possibilities. And so that is the best advice I think that came my way. And there's also other competing good advices, but that one I'd say is the top one.
That's a good one.
Go ahead, Mary.
No, you go ahead.
I love the idea of imagining all of the possibilities that there are. Having a grandson now, I think, I look through a different lens as a grandparent than I did as a parent, because my role as a parent was, and I just hope that I instill in him that there are so many possibilities for him. And if he can continue to imagine, now he's not even 2, but I just think it's important that we infuse that into our children. I love that, Kristen.
I do too.
Thank you.
I was thinking that like always having that goal, or always having something to guide us is like pretty important. And I think some of us, I feel like I do that unconsciously, like I'm not always aware of it. I'm just kind of like, I'm moving forward. I feel like that, but I'm not always naming. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. You have like when it feels right, when
Right.
you're in the zone. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like that comment aligns nicely with the one we were talking about with Ginger about knowing who you can be or imagining you can be or whatever, all that, like that's sort of the same sort of
Mhm.
thing that I think is so important for all of us.
And speaks to limitless possibilities.
Yes. Love that.
And Ginger, I happen to think that the idea of instilling in a young child the idea of all the possibilities and encouraging them like crazy, I think that is the number one job of grandmothers, isn't it?
Oh, it is mine. That child can do anything. He's amazing.
There you go. I think that's just like in the job description,
Yes,
right near the
I agree.
top. Yeah.
I think we do as parents as well. I think that it's just a different lens that we look through now, and there's a different level of joy that happens with grandchildren, or at least that's my experience. So,
Well, but you just described, you have sort of this freedom to
Mhm.
sort of gush all the possibility, you know, like it's like you don't have, you have all this freedom to just completely spoil and, you know, lavish all the love. I think that's like the whole thing.
I think it's amazing. There's limitless possibilities. I'm so excited. I might have to write those words on a piece of paper and put it on his door.
She
Ginger, I
definitely
think
has the role of being a grandmother.
I think you should email that to him, Ginger.
Oh yes. So I just told Mary today that I hope nobody sees this. I created an account for him, and I started his first email. I sent him has the day of his birth, and I wrote him a letter from Gigi and Papa and told him how much we loved him and how much that day means to us, and all the beautiful possibilities that he's going to be. And then the next one was the next time that we saw him, then his Christmas picture when he was in his Santa outfit. And so I'm on letter number 4. I got a ways to go because I started a little late, but I just thought, one day when he's old enough, he'll know how much he was loved.
How awesome. That's a great tradition to start.
Yeah.
It's like
But I
the
didn't
modern
tell his
day
mom
baby
that.
book.
Yeah, it's really his own little book. I could print the letters and put them in a book too.
Yeah. Maybe we won't have email when he's. I'm just.
I know, don't say that, but you could be quite right. Who knows what 10 years will be?
Okay. So Ginger, I know you have to leave. Are you heading out?
I am. Everybody, it was so great to see you. I'm wishing you the most wonderful holiday season ahead, and may it be filled with lots of fun, love, and family.
Thank you, Ginger.
Enjoy
I really
that
appreciate you
cruise.
being here.
Yeah, have a great time on your
Yeah,
family
great to
cruise.
see you.
Yeah, really, absolutely. Okay, so who has another one they'd like to share?
I'll share.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Jackie.
go.
Whenever I have learned this just because I'm getting older and now you have to prioritize, but whenever I start to get stressed or upset about something, I just have to stop and pause and start counting my blessings and realize I'm so much more blessed than 90% of the rest of the world. And why am I getting stressed about this? This is not a third world problem. It's a problem I'm creating. So I just have to breathe and let it go. And that was really hard for me to learn to do. But just like in traffic, I've decided if I get stuck in traffic, there's a reason. Maybe it's keeping me from hitting a deer down the road or something. I don't know, but it's not worth stressing over. I'll get there when I get there. And I need to be glad if I get there safely. And it's taken, 70 years for me to figure this out.
I've been thinking so much about that gratitude lately, not only for the month of November, but a lot of things happening in the world where how incredibly, fortunate I am. And to think that way, then transfer that, fortunate feeling to, wait a minute, this is all nonsense problems.
Yeah.
I have a house, I have food, I have a car,
True.
all these very, very important things.
And we can still pay our bills. There's a lot of people right now that can't.
I don't know if you does anybody watch CBS Sunday mornings? It's the best show on television.
Church or at the airport.
But they had Ted Koppel, from years ago. It's the best show on television, by the way. And he did a feature and a spotlight on people who are on benefits, and some of these people have 3 jobs plus with children, and they're living in these stay-at-home extended stay hotels. And I thought, that's a problem, and still these people were grateful, and it was such a beautiful segment of the show, and you can YouTube it too. Just about really putting my own life in perspective about how incredibly blessed I am, So it's a great little segment. It was from last Sunday, CBS Sunday Morning, and Ted Koppel was the correspondent. He usually just does guest stuff, and it was about living in poverty in America. So it was great.
So that would have been the November 16th, 2025
And worth
episode.
a watch.
Jackie, what I'm struck by too is I feel like one of the great gifts of getting older and entering our midlife time and sort of having had a lot of years and experiences is that it's much easier to gain that perspective. You know what I mean? Like I find I get myself less upset about things because I'm like, well, I've been through this before with the world and it ended up okay. And, this just somebody, but, so I find not always, but sometimes I can find that perspective more quickly because I have this whole body of been there, done that, and learned some lessons, maybe.
Hopefully.
Is that matching at all what you're trying to say?
Oh, definitely. Yes.
I can identify with that. Right. Recently, my air conditioning needs to be replaced and also my dryer, like in the same 3 or 4 days.
Right.
Ouch.
Yeah. And I started, that can be like, it's whatever. And then I started to think, I don't want to feel this way.
Right.
I want to feel how great it's going to feel when these projects are completed. And I don't have to think about that again for a long time, for 15 more years or whatever. The AC should be fine and the dryer should be fine for another 10 years. And how great that's going to feel, because I knew these things were going to happen sooner or later. It was getting near time. And before that, there's some other things I had to fix too. I got new glasses. The prescription wasn't correct. That had to be changed. I changed my checking account. That wasn't working properly. I had to change the numbers. You name it, it's happened in the last little run. And I thought, I don't want to be upset about this. So I made a table because I'm a Virgo and I like to work in a table. Okay, here are the things. This is here's the processes. And I went to the coaching words. I didn't feel 100% convicted, but at least I wasn't going into the poor me zone. I said, you are very capable. You will work through all of these things and these things will be taken care of. And isn't it great that you're so good at this, Virgo admin stuff, and you'll be able to bang these things right through.
Exactly.
And it was a much more older person perspective, to say, why get upset about this stuff? Yeah. In perspective, these are small problems. These are first world problems. And so, yes, all of us are lucky to have first world problems. And sort of my go-to, if I find myself starting to slip into woe's me or self-pity about anything, I look across the room at my faucet on my kitchen sink, and I say, all I have to do is cross my room, turn that handle, and there's potable water coming out right there. And
right there.
There's only a percentage of people in the world that can say those words, and that's under all circumstances in my life. That's another consistent thing. So yeah, I try really, really hard not to get into the, whatever it is, there's lose perspective. And there's so much going on in the world that can make you lose perspective, especially now. I am very grateful to have the amount of creature comforts that I have. Like I'm figuring out, we're talking about what's important to us, what our values are, what makes us satisfied.
Right.
Other people are having to deal with, how are we covering the groceries? How are we going to, can we get out of this motel in the next 5 months? Yeah. So I feel very lucky, and that's related to another piece of really good advice. So I'll throw that in. Several years ago, I've had the house for 22 years. So around 23 plus years ago, my spiritual teacher of all people, I was on my way out the door to sign a lease for an apartment in Gulfport because they had a public Montessori school, and I wanted my daughter to go to this public Montessori school. She's little, and I think it was I don't remember how old she was, but pretty small, 7 maybe, something like that. And I get this phone call, and it's my spiritual teacher, and she says to me, "I want you to buy a house." And I'm single head of household, working in human services. I don't have a big salary or anything.
Right.
But the way things work, we're supposed to just say yes. When they give you a direct instruction, you're just supposed to always say yes. Like, and so I said yes, and I got busy. And
Wow.
I set a goal, for when I wanted to buy this house. At the time, I was living in a condominium that my mother owned, and she had been out of it and had come back. So my mom and I are living together in her condominium, difficult, with a small child, and everything fell into place. There was even money that was in Massachusetts that had been forgotten about. I got government subsidy to for the down payment, the whole thing, and I'm still living in the house. It's been a great house. We love it. We live in a great spot. Because I got a mortgage 22 years ago that we could
Right.
not afford to live where I live now if I was paying like rent, amounts in our area currently. That it would be not feasible. So that was another really great piece of advice that I got, and I said yes to. I didn't rebel or question it. I just got busy and started making it happen.
Wow. That does relate to my second piece of advice, Tim. Both Jackie and Kristen's relate to mine.
Great.
So I hopefully maybe I'll connect these dots. So when I got this piece of advice from a teacher. I was a principal at an elementary school, and the teacher and I were close. She was very close, and she was getting her degree in administration, and I was her mentor, and we used to meet pretty frequently all the time. And we would, I was telling her, I have this thing to do, I have this thing to do, I have that thing to do, I have a million things to do. And she said to me, whoa. She said, have you ever failed yourself in your adult life? And so that makes, I'm not saying you've never failed. That's not the same thing. It's you yourself, like kind of Ginger's possibility, would you be? Like, you haven't really, oh, sorry, my prop fell off. Like she said, you've never failed yourself yet. And like Kristen, like you just saw things and you got to work, and Jackie, you said, wait a minute, let's put this in perspective. Like, and I think as an adult, like we've been there, done that, and we are, not that you're not going to grow from these failures, but you're going to get it all done. You're going to make it work. I think that's what I mean by that.
Yeah, but it's like the same. It's nice we're on the same sort of theme here. Like it's like this.
Yes.
Well, I at a certain point you start to realize, I've lived through this before, and I'm competent, and I can get through. Like I know what I'm doing, and Jackie, to your point, like okay, let me. I have the ability now to come back into perspective much faster, right? Like you that's a growth skill, that you're bringing to the table, which I think is really important.
Oh, I do too. Yeah.
Kristen, you also said something about, I love the fact that you sort of like, in the way I interpret what you said is sort of like, I feel like when we all each get really clear on this is where I want to go, or this really is important to me, or, then I think that things start to fall into place. The universe sort of says, okay, here we go. Boom, 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 boom. However you want to assume that power comes through whatever way. I think that that's really true. Like, I think if you get really clear about an intention, or this is what's going to be good for me, or this is what I really want, then all of a sudden I think things just get clear. And all of a sudden opportunities, maybe you start to notice opportunities you hadn't noticed before, or people in your life that you'd really noticed suddenly become important, or whatever. I think we get clear, and then we start to see things better. Our perspective is clear. And that, I think the older we get, the easier that is and the better we are at it, at least for myself. And I
Very
think that's
true.
an awesome thing about getting older. You know, I get less ruffled and I have experiences. And Jackie, to your point, it's sort of like I can get back to being grounded faster.
Very true.
Yeah, I love that. I love the connections between all of them, Tim. Like it's just really causing me to think about a lot of different things. So I think, those connections really make that work for me.
Nice. Okay. Who has any other advice they wrote down that they haven't said yet? Or anything else you came in with?
I have
Kristen,
one more. Yeah.
Love it. Great.
Which is stay in the day. Stay in the day. So it's sort of a juxtaposition from the big, hairy, audacious goal. You've got the big, hairy, audacious goal, which is, limitless and universal and way out there and big. And then there's stay in the day, which is, once you get, however many of your to-dos accomplished, now just relax. Because nobody else is working. Okay, it's past 5 p.m. or you're just doing what you're supposed to do today. That's it. And then tomorrow you'll do it again. And that's really
Yes.
that was really hard for me. I would get way in the future worrying about things that could be like 6 months out, and I would really stress out the people around me because I was, futuring into maybe not positive scenarios. Like we have to second guess ABC 1, 2, 3 because this, that, or a third. And oh my God, I caused a lot of I think conflict in relationship because I was too concerned about stuff that wasn't even happening now. And so I hardly ever do that now. Now I'm really pretty much focused on, what are the main priority things for today? And then I need to rest.
That causes a lot less anxiety and worry about the future. I love that.
Yeah. And I have had moments. I mean, it comes up every once in a while, especially with, the way things have been lately. I've had some fear, but again, it's a practice. It's enough of a practice that I do that if I feel like my, what do you call that? If I feel neurologically unsettled, then I know what to do to fix it. Go for a swim, meditate, sit in a hot bath. I know how to fix that kind of if it gets too, out of the moment. And there's a woman in my social media circle whose mother has had dementia for a long time, but they do a video fairly regularly where the mother talks about how good things are happening every day, but you've got to pay attention or you might miss it. Wow. And yeah. And I just think it's talk about good advice, and this is from a woman who's not even, technically still completely with us, but she knows that. She lived that and integrated that so well that she can do that on camera, even now.
Wow.
It's amazing.
I think I need that piece of advice, stay in the day, like in a neon sign.
I love that pay attention or you might miss it piece of that.
Me too.
Because that's really the point. I was reading something this morning about how we all have a tendency to sort of spend a lot of time not in the present and thinking about the past or the future, like you're describing, Kristen. And that has been chronicled in happiness studies to show that makes us less happy, right? When we are not present. One of the ways to be more happy is to spend less time ruminating and thinking about probably something negative and to stay present and paying attention. So I love that.
Love it.
I feel like I got help when I was with my teacher a long time ago. We would be just doing regular day-to-day things. And she would ask me, she'd say, "Are you happy?" And when she said that, I was like, what is she even talking about? Why is she asking me that? It just seemed so superfluous, And now I understand. She was just bringing me into this now moment. She was just bringing me into, okay, we're together and we're doing these things, and this is good right now. And yeah, so that was kind of like, ooh, you know, sometimes it takes like years after something happens with her. You know, she's that particular person is no longer on this side, but you know, it takes a long time sometimes for me to put it together. I'm like, oh, now I understand what she was doing.
Well, to all of the point of the things we've all been saying, we got advice from parents or mentors or teachers, and a lot of times it's years later that you're like,
Years.
oh, no, I get. I mean, I really think that's the way it works.
It's funny, right? Yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
I love that, and you know, like I guess if people are lucky if they take advice from their parents at the time, but I think most of us or many of us don't do
Not too
that,
much.
and later we realize, yeah, that was they were maybe
Really
onto
good.
something there.
Tim, you haven't said any of the best advice you've gotten.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't really planning to do that. I've been weighing in. I feel like on all of this, I can come up with something if you like me to, but I do want to say this before I do that. Kristen, you were talking about happiness in the moment, all of that stuff. I think that's really my challenge, or my version of that lately has been doing that, like being patient and letting things unfold, right? As opposed to trying to force it to go exactly the way I really I think it ought to, you know, like this has been my version of that lately. So I just thought I would share that because I really resonated with that. And I'm trying to stay in the moment. And also, gosh, if I'm honest, even in the last 6 months, when things did not unfold the way I thought they were supposed to, I can look back at some of those things and say, oh, well, okay, I kind of see how that maybe worked out maybe the way it was supposed to, you know, like
Right.
some of it is sort of like, okay, we got there. We got to a place. I don't know. I have a hard time not trying to force my good
Yeah,
exactly the way I think
exactly.
it's supposed to appear at
Sure.
the right moment, exactly when I want it. Jackie, you're nodding. You want to weigh in on that?
Well, no, we've all been there where we tried to force something to happen that we wanted so badly. And then when we don't get it, it's like, now we realize there was a reason. It's kind of like the no regret thing. Now you know why. So the way life reveals itself to you, you know, it just gives you this kind of peace and calm, realizing, you know, this is my path and this is the way it was supposed to be. And I just need to accept it. It is
This
so
is-
hard.
It can
Yeah.
be so hard.
So hard.
It's so hard. But I do think, again, another gift of having some years and getting into
Yes.
your midlife time is you do have more of that perspective that we're talking about. And you can look back with a bigger, the arc is longer and you
Right.
can see, you know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times things happen in the news or whatever. And I'm just like, oh man, we've been through this before. I'm just going to, you know, and I know, they turned off football on my TV channel the other day. And I was like, well, I know how this is going to go. You know,
Yeah.
everybody's going to posture for a week and a half and it's all going to be over. Like, and it's how
And
it
then it's
went,
all
you know,
solved.
I know. And it's just like, okay, you know, so I got a little less ruffled, which that was good. I still missed a football game or two, but it's okay.
That's funny.
I will say, Mary, that one of the pieces of advice that I like to share is that if you aren't bothered by it, no one else will be. And I feel like we all have qualities or things that we're maybe self-conscious about, or
Yes.
you know, what will people think? And the advice that I really like that I got that has served me well is if I don't have an issue with it and just, you know, go on about
Move
my
on.
business, most people won't either. That doesn't always play out exactly true these days, but most of the time I think it's true.
Right.
So if
Stay
I'm not
in
going to
the
have an
day.
issue with something, nobody thinks anything about it either. But if I'm acting weird about it and wondering what everybody's going to think, then I think then that clues them out that something's not right. Right. So that's a piece that I really try to remember a lot. If I don't
I
have a
think
problem
that's
with it, they
great.
won't. Yeah. Whatever that might be, everybody has their own version of that. You know, but I think we all have that thing that like, what will people think? You know, and then it's like, people aren't paying any attention to us, you know, like everybody's so wrapped up in their own thing, you know, like God, nobody's paying any attention to us.
You're right.
And that
And I
can be
have
really
to tell
comforting.
myself, don't be judgmental. That's their
Yeah,
choice, not mine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Tough too.
And
Sometimes.
does it really impact me?
Yes.
And is it really my job to try to rush in and save them? Like most of the time, I just need to stay out of the way. Maybe that's the best gift, is not saying anything. I
Right.
think
Stay
perhaps
out of the way.
I've learned
I'm
that that's,
writing that down too, Tim. Stay out of the way.
yeah. I mean, sometimes just leaving people alone and is a real huge gift.
I'm going to
And
combine
I'll say
those.
that, everyone, as we're heading into the holidays. Remember this little nugget.
I'm going to stay in the day and just stay out of the way. I'm going to pump.
There you go. We have our own slogan for tonight's
Perfect.
conversation. I love it.
And it rhymes. Yay!
I'm creating neon signs if anyone would like one.
Oh, I
Back
would
in
love
the-
one.
Oh, back in the day, it would have been a sampler, wouldn't it? Come on. Oh, now I'm really
Those take
dating
a long time. Those take a
I'm
long
really
time.
dating myself now. Okay. Well, I just read Jane Eyre. I was back in the days where people were sitting around. They did a lot of sewing of samplers in Jane Eyre. That's what all the ladies were doing most of the book. So anyway, all right. So I'm going to let's go around and everybody sort of say a final thought. I think we sort of wrapped this up really nicely. I love everything everybody contributed. Kristen, I'll randomly go with you. Anything you want to say in closing? Anything you want to recap or final thoughts?
Okay, one more chunk of advice. So when I was young, we did not have a religious structure. I was raised as a secular humanist. But my mother told me, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, and keep an open mind. And that has served me well. Those rules, guidelines, suggestions have worked really well. Yeah.
I like that. That's good stuff. Okay, Jackie, final thoughts from you. Anything you want to say in closing?
Well, here we are getting ready for Thanksgiving. It's the month of November, and I've been trying to go and remember gratitude every day and be like going through the TSA line and thanking those people for working when they weren't getting a paycheck. Those kinds of things. Be grateful that we're even able to fly right now, and just count my blessings. How blessed I am to be able to do what I do, go where I go.
Give what you give.
Yes. So we just need to remember how blessed we are.
I just love that.
That's
It's so important.
Mary, anything you want to say as we're closing?
What I find fabulous, first of all, this was so fun to talk about, as well as to hear everybody's different advice.
And I have to point out that you were very worried about this conversation. You were
Oh.
so nervous. So I'm
I
not
know,
saying I
because
told
I
you
was like-
so.
Because
I'm shocked.
I've gotten a lot of good advice in my time, and I just couldn't think of pinpoint one thing.
Well, you felt pressure to be brilliant, as always. And that's
Yes.
one of the things we talked about tonight, is that you don't need to feel that pressure. You're just going to be brilliant. You can't help it.
Stay in the
Yes,
day and
yes.
get out of the way.
There you go.
I'm living it.
That's fantastic. Anyway, you were
Living it.
saying before I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
I loved all the connections to each other's advice that were made. They ran along, they were coherent and aligned in some way. And so much of it had to do with that gratefulness, and so much had to do with warm feelings, as well as, moving forward, and as well as some of aging. There was a line of aging as well. So I'm just appreciative, and I'm likely going to make many more connections throughout the week and month on these pieces of advice.
I love it.
Nice.
Well, this was really, really fun. So Kristen, Jackie, Mary, and Ginger, who had to leave early, thank you guys so much for being a part of this conversation. I enjoyed it so much.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
inviting
Jen.
us again.
Happy
Of course.
holidays, everybody.